And guys, we have private and public IP address. So let us try to understand what is this private and public IP addresses. So imagine we have three organizations using the same network in their LAN. So we have ABC organization, PQR organization, XYZ organization. These three organizations are having their LAN. So ABC is having two computers and it is connected to switch and they are communicating with each other. They belong to 1.0 network and the physical connectivity is there. PQR is having two computers. It is connected to switch. Physical connectivity is there. And the IP addresses to these two PCs are assigned from 1.0 network. So the logical connectivity is also there. So ABC is using 1.0 network. PQR is also using 1.0 network. And we have one more organization, XYZ, and they are also using 1.0 network in their LAN. Okay. So here, these three different organizations are using the same network in their LAN, but they are not directly connected. So there is no problem if they use the same network. It will work fine. It will allow these computers to communicate with each other because these three networks are not directly connected with each other. Okay. And the IP addresses which are configured in your LAN, they are called as private IP addresses because you are using these networks in your private network. That is why it is called as private IP addresses. So till now there is no problem at all. Let us say they are connected. All these three organizations want their computers to get the internet access. So they are all connected to internet and on internet we have cisco.com server. So let us say this 192.168.1.1 of ABC organization wants to open the Cisco site. Here the source is 192.168.1.1. Destination is 192.160. Sorry, the destination is cisco.com. Okay, so the request will go to this router. From router, the request will go to internet. From internet, the request will go to cisco.com. Cisco.com will see that the request is coming from 192.168.1.1. In this example, we have three 192.168.1.1. So cisco.com will get confused and it won't be able to send the response. Okay. So this is the problem here. When you are trying to access the internet using your private IP addresses. So in this example, we have taken only the three organizations. So all over the world, we have millions of organizations. They are using the same network in their LAN, which means we can't access the internet using your private IP addresses. So what is the solution? The solution is public IP address. So what is this public IP address? Public IP address is a unique IP address. It is like your mobile numbers. So no two mobile phones can have the same mobile number the same way. No two devices can have the same public IP address. They are the unique IP addresses. So what you will do, you will configure the public IP addresses on each network. So ABC have purchased 1.1.1.1 public IP address. PQR has purchased 2.2.2.2 IP address. XYZ has purchased 3.3.3 IP address. Now, again, this 192.168.1.1 of ABC organization wants to access cisco.com. The source is 192.168.1.1. Destination is cisco.com. The request will go to the router. This router, what it will do? It will not send the request with this private IP address. It will replace this private IP address with this public IP address. And the request will go with the public IP address. So this cisco.com, we see that the request is coming from 1.1.1.1, which is the public IP address, which is a unique IP address. Then it will send the response back to 1.1.1.1. And this router knows which PC has originated the request. And it will forward the response back to 192.168.1.1 and changing the IP address from this private IP address to public IP address. It is called as NAT, network address translation. Okay. So you are going to, I think we have already covered this LAN in our CCNA classes. And the difference between public IP address and private IP address is this public IP address used on public network. If you want to access the internet, you need public IP address, whereas this private IP address used within your LAN or organization. This public IP address is recognized on internet, whereas this private IP address is not recognized on internet. You can't access the internet using private IP address. You need public IP address. It is globally unique. As we have discussed, it is like your mobile number. No two mobile phones can have the same mobile number the same way. No two devices can have the same public IP address. Whereas this private IP address is unique in your LAN. And this public IP address is provided by ISP, Internet Service Provider, whereas this private IP address is provided by the administrator. And you need to pay to get the public IP address, whereas this private IP addresses are for free. So guys, we have some examples of this private and public IP addresses. So if you see, we have the ranges as well. Okay, if you have decided to configure the IP address from class A network, okay, the range of the class A is from 0 to 127. Okay, out of this 0 to 127 networks, there is one network from 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. These networks are reserved for private IP addressing. You should configure the IP addresses in your LAN from this network if you're using class A. Except these networks, all the other networks are reserved for public IP addressing. If you have decided to configure the IP address in your LAN from class B, okay, the range of this class B is from 128 to 191, and this range is reserved for private IP addressing 172.16.0.02, 172.31.255.255. Except this range, everything is reserved for public IP addressing. If you are configuring the IP addresses in your LAN from class C, the range is from 192 to 223. And out of this 192 to 223, this range from 192.168.0.02, 192.168.255.255 is reserved for private IP addressing. Except these networks, the other ranges are reserved for public IPs. Okay, so 192.168.1.1, this IP address is falling between 192.168.0.0 to 192.168.255.255. This is the private IP address. Using this address, you can't access the internet. Then we have 203.165.201.30. This IP address is falling here. Okay, so it is a public IP address. Then we have 192.168. It is falling here. It is a private network. So this is how you will identify the IP addresses. And who is providing this IP addresses? This public IP addresses. Who is responsible to manage this public IP addresses? So INA is responsible for allocation of globally unique IP addresses. IANA stands for Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. They are the one who manages the IP addresses. So IANA is operated by ICANN. ICANN stands for Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So IANA delegates the allocation of, so this is IANA. What this IANA will do, it will assign the block of IP addresses to their branches. So IAN is having 5 branches. like Afrinic, Apinic, Erin, Lacnic, Ripe, and CC. Afrinic, this branch is for Africa region. Apinic, this branch is for Asia Pacific region. Erin is for Canada, USA, and some Caribbean islands. Lacnic is for Latin America and some Caribbean islands. Ripe NCC, it is for Europe, Middle East, and Central Asia. These are the five branches. And the correct terminologies of these five branches is RIR, Regional Internet Registry. So IANA is having five regional internet registries. So it will assign the block of IP addresses to all these RIRs. These RIRs will provide the IP addresses to their ISPs. ISPs will provide the IP address to the end users.